Whenever we try to reach out and accomplish our dreams, when we try to hit our goals, there is one common enemy which comes in our way. And who is that enemy? I'm not saying our brain is our enemy, but there are certain flawed thinking patterns which often get in our way. And today I'm going to talk about one of them, which is a very common pattern, yet we rarely ever notice it. And that flawed thinking I'm going to talk about, that thinking flaw is urgent versus important. So here's what it means. When we have some task that we need to perform or prioritize, let's say you have two things. You are trying to learn a new skill set and you have to, let's say, do an online course for which you need to study every day for an hour. Now you decide that I'm going to do that study, let's say, from 7 to 8 p.m. But at 6:45 or 6:50, you just see an email and you feel like, oh, you know what? Let me just respond to that email. Let me get that done first. Studies, I can do it after half an hour. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Now, this is a classic case of urgent versus important. Now, before I further explain, let me give you a little bit of historical evolution of why do we always prioritize, or mostly prioritize, the urgent over the important. Our brain has not evolved in the last 10-20 years. It has, for the most part, it has evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. And at that time, our ancestors, they were living in the wild, in the forests, in the midst of all these physical dangers. And if they missed one danger, that could kill them. So we are the progeny of people who were constantly looking out for danger, and every danger was urgent. Something which is important 6 months later, in those days, man would not think about it. That's not really a priority. As we got civilized, it became a priority over time, but not in the wild. Even though a lot of things have changed, that bias we still have. Today, something which is urgent is rarely going to cost us our life. I'm not saying that urgencies don't matter. All I'm saying is that our brain is still wired to prioritize the urgent over the important, because that is how we survived in the wild. And that is why every time you see an email, we tend to overestimate its urgency. And then we defer things which are important, but they are long term. And that is why when we sign up for online courses, we don't complete them for months, sometimes even years, sometimes we never complete them. Because always, it's not urgent. I can do it tomorrow. I can do it next week. I can do it next month. And as a result, it never happens. Now, if you're not convinced, you might say, yeah, that sounds reasonable. But no, when I think something is urgent, it is actually urgent. I would challenge that notion. In fact, I would ask you to challenge that belief. And the very simple way you can do that is look at your emails or look at some things that have happened in the last 3 to 6 months, which seemed very urgent. Today, when you look at the same thing, does it feel like it was that urgent? Chances are a lot of things that you thought were urgent, 2 months later, 6 months later, 1 year later, 5 years later, when you look back, you feel like, you know what, I was wrong. It wasn't that urgent. On the other hand, things that were important, things that you thought, okay, this is going to make a difference to my life. Even today, if you look back, all those things, they still remain important. So this is the message I want to leave you with, which is, don't get tricked. Our mind can play a lot of tricks. So whenever you have that situation, stop, pull back and ask yourself, am I falling for the same thinking flaw? There is a high probability you might be. But once you're conscious and aware, you can step back and tell yourself, you know what? That email, I will respond after 1.5 hours. Right now, let me sit down, open my laptop, do that online course, even though it's not urgent. And when you do that on one day, then do it the next day, within a matter of couple of weeks, couple of months, your life will change. Urgency versus importance, this is what comes in our way a lot of the time. Change this one thing and it will change your life. This is my promise.